Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is August 2025, and Mark Ter Stegen has given his side of the story in this whole medical authorization debacle. Also, I have a good update in regards to the Camp Nou because the city has given the okay for the return to the during the Valencia match. And finally, Deco was captured today, having three key meetings with three different players. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. This is the Barca News live podcast, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but we also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting the discussion going live. This is why podcasts are my favorite days. For those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description. Chat is in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to goal kits, get back, or fanatics. If you're looking to place any sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description. You click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. All right, having said all that, let's begin with the news. And as always, the first segment of this podcast is comprised of multiple bits of news. And by the way, if my voice goes out here and there, I apologize. I'm sick. I have a really, really sore throat. I guess I have COVID. I thought COVID was gone. Like, why is it still around? But anyways, it's nothing serious. I just have a sore throat. I don't have a fever or anything crazy. But anyways, my voice goes in and out. I apologize in advance. But let's begin with the first bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Spanish Football Federation has fined Athletic Club de Bilbao for chants that their fans directed towards Barcelona during that away match where Barcelona won 0-3 towards the end of last season. The fans were heard, of course, chanting F Barca, F Barca. In Spanish, it's puta Barca, which technically speaking, if you translate it literally, it's Barca is a whore, but that obviously doesn't make sense. The actual translation, not the little one, is F Barca. So the fans were chanting F Barca during that Athletic Club de Bilbao match where they lost 0-3 at the hands of Barcelona. So the Royal Spanish Football Federation have fined them 9,000 euros because they consider this an expression of hatred that could incite violence. Now, I got to say, I'm usually not a big fan of these fines. I think unless it's like racial slurs directed at specific players, chants are chants. And I think freedom of expression should be respected and fans should be allowed to say whatever the hell they want. But on the other hand, it is Athletic Club de Bilbao and the way they behaved with the whole Nico Williams thing, I'm also happy at the same time. So I gotta say, I usually don't like these fines, but in this special occasion, I say F that. Now, this is not the first time Athletic Club de Bilbao are getting fined. Last season, they got fined, I think it was 50,000 euros at the hands of UEFA because there was some problems during a Europa League match. So I guess their fans, continue to pile up the bills for Athletic Club de Bilbao. Now, 9,000 euros is not a lot, of course, but I imagine if they continue chanting this, the fine will go up because, of course, if you continue doing the same thing, fines always go up. Anyways, the next bit of news is in regards to the Barcelona sporting vice president, Rafa Yuste, because as you know by now, there's been a lot of talks about Rafa Yuste leaving Barcelona in order to join the Saudi club Al Nassr. Al Nassr CEO has left, and Al Nassr now want Rafa Yuste to be their CEO. There's been a lot of meetings back and forth, a lot of conversations back and forth between Rafa Yuste and Al Nassr, and it's reported that he is set to meet with the Saudi public fund in the next few days. Now, if you don't know the way signings work, it's kind of weird in Saudi. They have a fund, a public fund that has all the money, and it's the fund that pays for the players, the coaches, etc., and then those players and coaches go to the respective clubs that are supposed to, sign them. So I guess the actual clubs don't pay money. It's the fund that pays money on their behalf. So Rafa Yuste is in advanced negotiations with Al Nassr, has had plenty of meetings with Al Nassr, but now he's going to meet with the actual fund that's going to be paying for his, signing, I guess, his salary to become the CEO of Al Nassr. So I guess we'll know for sure whether Rafa Yuste is leaving or not in the next few days after his meeting with this Saudi fund or with members of this Saudi fund. Now, as I've told you before, of course, this would be a big blow for Laporta because not only is Rafa Yuste the sporting vice president, but he's actually his childhood friend. They grew up together. Rafa Yuste was there during Laporta's first presidency. He's obviously now there during the second presidency. They have businesses together. But despite that, Laporta is obviously not going to, get in the way of this because at the end of the day, Laporta understands that the millions that Al Nassr are offering Rafa Yuste to become their CEO is just something that you cannot say no to, especially at this age, and especially because the executive board members of Barcelona don't get paid. It's a payless job. And to go from not earning anything to earning millions, obviously, is not an opportunity you can say no to, especially at this age. I mean, this could pretty much guarantee your retirement and probably even the retirement of your kids and your grandkids. All right, on to the last bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona are expecting the auditor's report for the VIP seats to be completed by the Joan Gamper Trophy match. Now, the Joan Gamper Trophy match is, of course, this Sunday, August 10th, 2025, where we're going to play against Como. And Barcelona expect the new report by the auditor Crow to be ready by then. Now, what am I talking about? Of course, I've talked about this a lot in previous videos. Barcelona sold rights to the VIP seats at the end of December in exchange of 100 million euros. The auditor, Crow, audited Barcelona's finances and produced a report saying that Barcelona could not count those 100 million euros as revenue because the seats were not built. Now the seats are built. So Barcelona have now asked the auditor to issue a new report saying that, yes, Barcelona can count the 100 million euros because now the seats are built. Now, once that report is ready, Barcelona expect to introduce it to La Liga, and they expect that they will officially become or go under the 1-1 rule. So when is the report going to be ready? Barcelona expected to be ready by the Joan Gamper Trophy match. So we'll see. Of course, we've heard different deadlines. We heard that report was going to be ready in June before the fiscal year ended. We heard that it was going to be ready during July months. Now they're telling Joan Gamper. Again, I'm just here to give you the information. Whether this is true or not, we're going to have to wait and see until Sunday. Of course, I hope it is true, and I hope the report does put us under the 1-1 rule because, remember, we still haven't registered any of our signings, whether it be Bargi, Rashford, or Joan Garcia. All right, let's do the comment section, and then we're going to talk about the Camp Nou because I do have good news for you. Not everything's bad news. Not always it's bad news. Sometimes I have good news. In this case, I got more good news. First, the report. Then we're going to talk about the Camp Nou. All right, let's see what everybody's saying. My throat is killing me. All right, let's see. Ahmad Khalil says, hey, Mo, how are you feeling today? I'm sick, my friend. I'm sick, but thank you for asking. What do you think any other goalkeeper would have done if they were in the same position as Ter Stegen? I mean, A, I don't know, and B, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, what someone else would do, it doesn't change the situation that we're in, and B, I mean, I don't think there's any point of hypothesizing what some fictional person or non-fictional person would do in this situation because it doesn't really matter. We're in a mess. And this mess is getting worse and worse. We're going to talk about it today, and it doesn't really matter. Cornell says, Mo, finally catching a show at a decent time. Yeah, now that you're back in the U.S., you don't have to watch the show at weird hours. But I'm going to let you know this weekend if I'm going to be in Texas. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten. We'll see. Choo-choo, my man Choo-choo with the donation says, hello, Mo. Can Barca fans stop blaming Ter Stegen and start questioning the people who run the club? I'm wondering the same thing. The problem is, people are very, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word. Blah, blah, blah. God, I don't know why I'm blanking on the words. Like it's very easy they believe anything and they're very easy manipulated. They see something on Twitter. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. They just run with it and there's no looking back. I mean, a great example of this. Remember when the club initiated that whole campaign, hashtag Ter Stegen Out, and they were talking about, Ter Stegen didn't give a speech at the end of La Liga season. And Ter Stegen didn't travel with the team to the Champions League, even though none of the captains gave a speech at the end of the Liga, and even though injured players have never traveled with the team to away matches. People didn't question it. They just believed it. They ran with it. Ter Stegen is the worst. Ter Stegen is the worst. But then, I don't know if you remember, last week, I literally read all these players. Gabi, Frankie, Rafinha, Pau Cubarsí, Ferran Torres, all these players defending Ter Stegen. And instead, all I got is like, oh, no, they're saying that because they were forced because it's an interview. Oh, no, they're saying that because they have to say that. Oh, no, all these excuses. It is like, all right, you'll believe some bullshit you read on Twitter with no evidence, but you will question actual quotes from the players. And that tells you these people are just not interested in knowing what's going on or what the facts are, or even thinking about what's going on or rationalizing what's going on. They have their narrative. They want to run with it. And no matter how much evidence you throw in their face, they'll find some excuse. And no matter what bullshit that supports their narrative they come across, they're going to believe it blindly. Like, again, they read something on Twitter, they believe it 100%. But then they see the players, literally, word for word. There's video of it, of the players saying, no, Ter Stegen is cool. He should be captain. Oh, no, they were forced to say that. They have to. It's like they come up with excuses for actual facts, but they'll believe any bullshit they see on Twitter. I mean, that's the world we live in. It's a polarized world where you're either team A or team B. And if you're team A, you're, if you're the other team, fuck you, you're stupid, you're an idiot. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And, social media is not making it any better, right? It's only making the world even more polarized. But it is what it is. Not the Gamer says, hey, Mo, how are you? Thoughts on Marc Guiu to Sunderland? Marc Guiu is Elias Moriba 2.0. Right? Barcelona had, Elias Moriba, very promising, coming up through the academy. Barcelona had a specific plan for him on how to develop him, how to grow him so he can become a first-team player. He got, ill-advised by his family, his entourage, his agent, wanted now. I want the money now. I want the fame now. I want to start now. I want minutes now. He left, and then look at him. He just bounced around. Total mistake. Marc Guiu, I think the same. Now, the difference with Marc Guiu is I don't think it's a loss for the club. I know people got all excited because he scored that one cool goal, but I don't think he had anything like special. And I'm not saying this because he left. I never saw I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I never saw anything special in him. Anything like, wow, Marc Guiu. But I think he's making the same mistake. Same thing. The club had a plan for him, and he didn't want to follow the plan. He wanted, I want to be a starter now. And look where he is at. He went to Chelsea and pretty much only played Conference League matches. And now to Sunderland, And that's what happens when good things take time. And if you're and this is why it's very important to be patient in life, not just in football, but in life in general. And if you want quick results, this is the kind of thing that happens. But if you're patient, if you follow the plan, the reward is obviously much, much better. And Choo, my man, with the second donation. Thank you so much, my friend, for your generosity. He says, even though some fans don't want it, at some point, Barca needs to sell a player or two to raise fund, and I know the two already. So here's the thing. Barcelona have said that they're not going to sell players in order to be able to register new ones, because Flick believes that, the squad that he has is what he needs to compete. And even though we have an overbooking in some positions like the midfield, he doesn't want to lose any of those players because A, he thinks they're quality players, and B, he thinks that he needs all those players because obviously, it's 4 competitions, right? La Liga, Champions, Copa del Rey, Spanish Super Cup. There's FIFA international breaks. There's a match every 3-4 days. So he thinks that he needs all the players that he currently has, and that losing any of those players will be weakening the squad. So Flick doesn't want Barcelona to offload players just to be able to generate money or to register others. Now, there's a difference, of course, offloading players because Flick doesn't count on them, like, Iñaki Peña, Oriol Romeo, etc. That's different, right? But as far as offloading the other players because the club needs to generate money or needs to register, that's not something the club want to do. Or at least that's the official stance that we've been told. Hamad says, hello, Mo. How are you doing? It's me, Hamad from Sierra Leone. I hope everything is okay. Now that test again. Now what test? Everything's okay. Now what test again? I don't think I understood that. I don't think I understood that. But if you can explain it to me down below, I'll be happy to read your comment. One more, and then we'll go back to the news. Christopher says Barca will beat Como, very solid team, 3-0, 4-0, and you just watched Mallorca on the first game. I'm very excited for the Como match. I mean, yes, it is a friendly match. It is the Joan Gamper Trophy, whatever, blah blah blah. But I think it's gonna be a good match. I mean, it's Como. I think they're a step above Vissel Kobe and FC Seoul and Daegu FC, and they've been playing very interesting football under what's his name, Cesc Fabregas. And it'll be nice to see Cesc Fabregas back in Barcelona, this time as a coach. I'm really, really excited for that match. I'm sure Barcelona will win. And I mean, if they don't, they don't. Who cares? It's a friendly match. But I think it's going to be an entertaining match. And sometimes, friendly matches do end up being pretty entertaining because sometimes the fact that there is nothing on the line, and sometimes that makes teams a little more entertaining to watch. Because that's why, like, for example, in the World Cup, I always love to watch the third, fourth place match. Because both teams are out, they're not gonna win the World Cup. They're out of the final, so they got nothing to lose. So it's just like a festival of goals, a festival just attack, because you don't have to worry about like, I can't like attack all the time because I might get scored on and lose the match. You don't give a shit if you get scored on and you lose the match. You're out, right? And nobody cares about the third place bronze medal. So usually those matches are very entertaining because both teams just attack, and it's festival of goals. So I'm looking forward to this Joan Gamper Trophy match. But anyways, let's get back to the news. I don't want to keep getting distracted by random topics, but let's talk about good news. Good news. It's always good to have good news. People are always like, Mo, you always have bad news for us. I'm sorry. It's not me. But this time I have good news for you. And the good news is the mayor of the city of Barcelona, Jordi Valls, has given the okay for Barcelona to return to the Spotify Camp Nou by the Valencia fixture. Now, as you know by now, the first three fixtures of La Liga will be away matches because Barcelona asked for that. They asked La Liga for that in order to have more time to prepare the stadium. La Liga said, okay, you got it. So the first three matches are away matches. Then there's a FIFA international break already. What the fuck? And then the fourth fixture will be against Valencia. It will be the first home fixture of the season, scheduled for the September 14, September 15 weekend. And Barcelona were, of course, aiming to return to the Camp Nou by that weekend. Now, as I told you in yesterday's video, Barcelona have reached an agreement with the city on a partial return because Barcelona were planning to return at a 62,000 people capacity by the Valencia match, which would be the full first two rings because the third one is being built. So the two rings that you see in the picture, that can house 62,000 people. And Barcelona were hoping to use both rings completely by the return of Valencia. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. It's not going to be ready. So instead, Barcelona reached an agreement. Okay, both rings are not going to be ready. Instead of not returning at all, how about you, City of Barcelona, allow us to return in phases? And the City of Barcelona said, you got it. So the first phase is going to be just 27,000 people, which would be Gol Sur and Tribuna Norte, I think, if I remember this correctly. 27,000 people. Then, second phase, the stadium will be able to host 45,000 people. And then by the third phase, it will be the full 62,000 people that the first two rings can house. Obviously, once the third ring is built by next summer, hopefully, it will be 100,000. But that's the agreement that Barcelona reached with the city. And well, today, the mayor of the city of Barcelona, Jordi Valls, confirming that agreement and saying that, yes, Barcelona can return to the Camp Nou by the Valencia match with 27,000 people capacity. However, and this is very important, this is not done deal. That's it. We're going back to the Camp Nou. Barcelona still have to complete a series of work for this to happen. Barcelona have to build the access points because right now the stadium, you cannot access it from the street or the sidewalks. They have to build those access points. They have to finish all the, emergency planning, et cetera, et cetera. Once all that's built, they have to undergo a partial inspection where they would inspect, the city would inspect all the safety measures like, oh, do you need to evacuate? If there's a fire, blah, 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 things like that. Then The stadium will undergo a full inspection. So first a partial inspection, then a full inspection, then an inspection by the fire department, and then an inspection by the civil department. And on top of all that, Barcelona have to get green light from 3 different, organizations. They have to get a completion certificate. They have to get an environmental control certificate. And finally, a permit from Les Corts district. So, again, the agreement is there. We can return to Camp Nou by the Valencia match. But Barcelona still need to do all these things. So, there's still a lot of work done. This is a great step forward, but there's still work to be done. Don't think, oh, okay, that's it. We're returning to the Camp Nou. I'm going to buy my ticket and I'm going to be there's still work to be done, okay? But nonetheless, this is a great, great move forward. Now, I see a lot of people already saying, oh, Bo, I told you, Laporta didn't lie to us, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, seriously, Laporta told us we were going to go back in November, then December, then February, then April, then May, then August, and now we finally, looks like we could be returning by the 7th date that he gave us. And it's like, no, he didn't lie to us. What about the other 6 times? This is like the guy whose girlfriend goes out on a Thursday, cheats on him. Goes out on Friday, cheats on him. Goes out on Saturday, cheats on him. Goes out on Sunday, and she tells him, look, babe, I didn't cheat tonight. He's like, oh, man, I got the best girlfriend ever. She went out tonight. She didn't cheat on me. She loves me. Come on, guys. Come on. Have a little bit more self-respect. Anyways, let's do the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Ter Stegen. Yes, there's more. There's more. The game's getting crazier and crazier. And my man Shin with the donation says, sup, Mo. Potato chip. That is hilarious. Sup, potato chip. Heard Oriol Romeo, a.k.a. Powder, came to an agreement with Barca to terminate his contract upon finding another team to sign with. True story. Keep on keeping on, my brother. Yes. Oriol Romeo and Barcelona have agreed that, let's say, they're going to rescind his contract because obviously Flick doesn't count on Oriol Romeo. Oriol Romeo knows that, so he's not looking to stay either. His contract expires next summer. And even though there are some clubs interested in him, mostly Girona and Oviedo, the newly promoted Oviedo, they're only interested in him if he's a free agent. They're not interested in paying a transfer fee. So seeing that the club need to offload him, seeing that he wants to leave, and the only way they're going to sign him is being a free agent, the club and the player have agreed that, yeah, whenever the time comes, we'll cancel your contract, mutual agreement. You go your way, you sign with whoever you want, and Barcelona get rid of a player that, they don't count on. Now, Oriol Romeo does have a pretty small salary, so it's not going to make a huge difference. But of course, given the club's financial situation, every penny counts. But yes. Thank you, my friend, for your donation. And then let's see who else. Where did we leave off? That's the solid question right here. Mike says, hey, Mo, I heard that Barca/Black Mamba away kit collaboration will remain the away kit until 27-28 season. Any truth to this that you know about? Not that I know about. Doesn't mean that's not true. It just means I haven't heard anything. But I'll do more digging. And I'll definitely let you know. But someone else told me this. I can't remember if someone texted me this or I saw it, but it wasn't like an official source. But I think this is the second time I've heard this. Again, not that I know of, but don't worry. I'll do more digging. Charles says, Mo, with all the trophies that Barcelona won last season and the players that left the club, why are we still struggling to register players? Does that trophies impact at all? It does. Here is how the wage bill works. Okay. At the end of a fiscal year, which ends on June 30th, every club submit their finances to La Liga and saying, look, this is how much money we made. This is how much money we spent. And obviously, if you subtract what you spent from what you made, you either have a profit, which means you made more than you spent. You either have a loss, meaning you spent more than you made, or you break even, which means you spent exactly as much as you made. And based on all those factors, whether you have a profit, loss, or broke even, and how much money you made, how much money you spent, La Liga gives you a wage limit and tells you this is how much you can spend on salaries in total. This goes for everybody. First team players, coaches, employees, Barca athletic players and coaches, Barca Femini, basketball, handball, futsal, blah, blah, blah. All the salaries of all the employees of Barcelona, they need to amount to a certain level. I think right now the salary limit for Barcelona is set at 400 million or something like that. Let me see. Right? If your salaries, combined salaries, are more than what your salary limit is, then you get restricted as far as the registration. You can't register players. Why? This is a protection measure that La Liga has in place, because if you're spending more than what you're making, then eventually you're going to go broke, you're going to file for bankruptcy, and you're going to stop existing. So to prevent clubs from spending more than they make and eventually run themselves to the ground, the moment you start spending more than what you're allowed to spend on salaries, La Liga says, all right, we're going to slow down your spending. How? We're going to make it very difficult for you to register players. You can still sign the players, but you cannot register them, right? Because they cannot tell you how to spend your money. So you can still go sign 1 million players, but they're going to make it difficult for you to register because that's something they can control. So obviously that deters club, or it should deter clubs from signing players, because what's the point of signing 1 million players if you're not going to be able to register? So that's a protection mechanism in La Liga to prevent clubs from running themselves to their ground. Now, Barcelona's wage limit right now, let me see, is... So it has not been updated for this summer yet, but right now it's set at 463 million euros, meaning that Barcelona cannot spend more than 463 million euros on all their salaries. Again, not just the first team, all their teams, all their employees, the janitors, the towel boys, the ball boy, everybody. And right now, I think Barcelona's wage bill, I think, sits at 500, if I'm not mistaken. Salary total. Let me see. Right now, let me see. How much is Barcelona spending on salaries total? And remember, this has not been updated for this year. This is all like February's numbers. Let me see. I don't know why I cannot find the number of how much Barcelona wages are, but they are definitely over what the limit is. So obviously reducing the salary total helps, like offloading Ansu and Lenglet and things like that. But you still have to bring it all the way under the wage limit in order to be under the 1-to-1 rule. Or, of course, you increase your revenue. By increasing your revenue, increases your salary cap, which then gives you more limit. So imagine the salary cap is set at 100 million and you're spending 200 million and you offload 10 players and it's 50 million in salaries you just took off. You're like, wow, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but you were spending 200 and you subtract 50, now you're 150. You're still above your 100 million euro wage cap, right? So that's the problem. Yes, it helps, but we're in so much trouble that you still need more and more. So anyways, let's go back to the news, because ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk about, well, Ter Stegen, because it's getting messier and messier. And now Ter Stegen, through his entourage, have given us their version of the story of what is going on. Now, as you know, yesterday, this whole thing blew up when reports dropped stated that Ter Stegen had refused to sign the medical report that Barcelona were going to submit to La Liga in order to register Joan Garcia in the place of Ter Stegen. And this, of course, ignited this whole war between the club and the player, with, people going crazy. Oh, Ter Stegen, he's so selfish. He's just blah, blah, blah. Ter Stegen out, Ter Stegen out. Now, Ter Stegen has given his version of what happened and why he has refused to sign the medical report. Now, remember, this medical report has to be submitted to La Liga in order for La Liga to allow Barcelona to register Joan Garcia in a place of Ter Stegen. And this medical report cannot be submitted without the authorization of Ter Stegen, because those are his confidential private medical records. And there's consent laws, ladies and gentlemen. There's privacy protection laws that prevent anyone from sharing your medical records without your consent. This is nothing new. Someone in the comment section was like, oh, Ter Stegen is setting a precedent. No, he's not. These protection laws have existed for decades. I cannot go and be like, hey, you, I'm going to take your medical records and give them to someone. I cannot do that without your consent. This is universal in the Western world and has always existed. People were like, well, it doesn't apply to players. Yes, it does. Fundamental rights apply to everyone in a country equally. Doesn't matter if you're a player. Doesn't matter if you're a doctor. Doesn't matter if you're a garbage collector. These laws apply to everyone. So Barcelona, in order to submit this report, they need the authorization of Ter Stegen. Please get that through your heads. I've seen all these crazy things. People talking about, oh, no, this doesn't apply, and blah, blah, blah. No, stop there. Let's focus on what is actually happening, not some made-up scenarios that you might have read on Twitter. Anyways, let's get back to the news. Now, Ter Stegen has given his version on why he has refused to sign the report. Now, they're saying that the report that the club presented to Ter Stegen says that he's going to be out 4 to 5 months. And the reason why Ter Stegen has refused to sign this is because he has the same exact injury that he had 3 summers ago, and he got the same surgery that he had 3 summers ago. It's in fact the same doctor that operated on him 3 summers ago is the one that operated on him now. So since it's the same exact injury in the same spot, and it's the same exact surgery done by the same exact doctor, Ter Stegen thinks that the recovery time will be, well, exactly the same as before. Now, how long did it take Ter Stegen to recover from his injury back in, I think it was 2023 or 2022? Might be confusing the years. It was 2.5 months. So the last time Ter Stegen got injured, same injury, same surgery, same doctor, it took him 2.5 months to be back in action. So he thinks that it's also going to take him 2.5 months because, again, same exact injury in the same spot, same surgery, same doctor. And since the report that Barcelona presented to him said 4 months, he said, I'm not going to sign that because I'm going to be out 2.5. You want me to sit down on the bench for 4, and I'm not going to do that because that's not how long I'm going to be out for. So this is why Ter Stegen refused to sign this report. Now, when I read this, it made me think a little bit because I always like to think about the implications of the news that I read. It's not just, oh, I just read something and that's it. I always like to analyze it a little bit deeper and scratch the surface. If the club truly, what Ter Stegen is saying is true, again, this is if, hypothetical, right? If what Ter Stegen is saying is true, and this is the same exact injury, surgery, recovery, doctor, everything, and it should only take him 2.5 months, and the club knows this, why would the club insist on the 4 months? And I started thinking, this doesn't make sense, right? Because the club are aware of the injury, whether it's the same or not, and whether it's the same surgery or not. They have access to those medical records. It's not the question. The question is whether they can release them. And if they knew, and if what Ter Stegen is saying is true, and they know that it's true, all I can think about is that maybe all of this is just one big smoke screen to set up Ter Stegen as the fail guy. Because if Barcelona don't have a plan to register Joan Garcia and these players, and you end up starting the season without register them, they can always point at Marc and said, it's not us. It's Marc's fault. And that's going to make a little bit more sense when we get to the second point that Ter Stegen has given us through his representatives. The second thing that Ter Stegen has pointed to is, he said, why would I sign this report? Barcelona signed these players, Joan Garcia, Rashford, and Bargi, before Ter Stegen got injured. So you assume, since these signings happened before the injury, is that Barcelona already had a plan to register them. Because usually, and this is a big usually, clubs, when they sign a player, they already know how they're going to register. Now, when it comes to Laporta, he just signs players and then improvises and let's figure it out later, right? So this makes even more sense because if Barcelona does indeed have no plan or no idea how to register these players, then setting up Ter Stegen to be the fail guy later on would make perfect sense, because this would be the second summer, actually the third summer in a row that Barcelona does this. Remember Jules Koundé? He wasn't registered until the third week of La Liga. And in order to register him, Laporta and John Olivier and other members of the board had to put money out of their own pocket as a bond to register him, because they had no plan on how to register him. And they had to put money out of their own pocket. Last summer, Daniel Olmo and Pau Victor, they too started the season not being registered. And the club got lucky that Christensen got injured. And that allowed them to be registered. And then they started the second half of the season also unregistered. And now this would be the third summer that Barcelona signed players without a plan to register him. And there's a chance that they could start the season unregistered. But if the club creates this whole show, oh, Ter Stegen refused it, blah, blah, blah. Now it's not the club's fault. Now it's Ter Stegen's fault. Now, I could be just overthinking it, and maybe I'm just crazy. But again, if the club does know that Ter Stegen is only going to be out for 2.5 months, why would they insist on the 4? And since Ter Stegen is right, these signings were made before he was injured, why are they insisting again on using his injury? And then remember, Laporta said, Barcelona have a plan to register Joan Garcia. We don't need Ter Stegen's injury, but it's the most direct way. That statement did not make sense to me, because if you truly can register Joan Garcia without Ter Stegen's injury, why wouldn't you do that? Right? Because that option guarantees the registration of Joan Garcia for an entire season. Using Ter Stegen's injury only guarantees his injury, the registration of Joan Garcia only for half the season. So you're telling me you have two options: register Joan Garcia a whole season, and you're going to say, fuck it, I just want to register him for half a season. Let's go through the Ter Stegen route. That doesn't make sense to me. It means that there is no first route. There is no way to register him the whole season. And it means, again, they lie to us. And again, they sign the players without having a plan in place on how to register them. And now they have a fall guy, Ter Stegen. Because now people are buying this. People are blaming Ter Stegen. They're like, oh, he's doing it out of spite. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But it's not his responsibility to register players. It's the club's responsibility. This is like your boss hiring a new employee and telling you, hey, Mark, or hey, John, I need you to quit, or I need you to reduce your salary, or I need you to give up half your salary so we can pay this new employee that we hired. And you're going to be like, what? Why should I worry about how you pay this employee? You're the boss. You're the company. If you didn't have money to hire that employee, then why'd you hire him? And then imagine on top of that, you say, no, I'm not going to reduce my salary. Like, it's not my responsibility. And then all your coworkers start saying, fuck you. You're a rat. You're a piece of shit. Blah, blah. And you're like sitting there like, yo, how am I the bad guy here? So you see what I mean when I say there is two sides to this coin. But anyways, people just want to take sides, and that's it, right? Now, there's more. There's more. The third thing that Ter Stegen has pointed to is the fact that he's always been there for the club. Not only has been there 11 years, not only has won every major trophy there is to win with the club, he was always there to help the club. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, Ter Stegen agreed to defer his salary. And in 2023, when Barcelona could not afford to pay Ter Stegen the money he had agreed to defer 3 years before that, he agreed to renew his contract, completely restructuring his salary, reducing it in order for the club to afford his to pay him, and in order to help the club with the registrations of the players that they signed back then. So they're saying is like, yo, I helped you guys plenty of times, and now you're just throwing me out there, discarding me, throwing me to the wolves. And this is why Ter Stegen is not happy. It's not Ter Stegen through his entourage has made it very clear. It's not the Joan Garcia signing that upsets him. It's how the club handled the whole situation from the beginning. Because when the season ended, the club met with Pau Victor and told him, hey, we don't count on you. And now he's gone. They met with Pablo Torre. Hey, we don't count on you. Now he's gone. They met with all the players, Iñaki Peña. Hey, we don't count on you. Now he's gone. They met with Ter Stegen and they told him, you're going to be our number one. And then Ter Stegen goes with Germany and finds out from reporters, hey, you're actually getting pushed out and club are signing someone else. And then this whole campaign magically begins on Twitter, hashtag Matt's out. No coincidence. The club has done this plenty of times. And that's what Ter Stegen doesn't like. And now they're setting him up to be the fall guy. Oh, look, we can't register the players. It's not because we didn't plan ahead. It's because of Ter Stegen, even though it's not his responsibility to register him. And this is why Ter Stegen is upset, or at least that's his version that he has given us through his entourage. Now, to make things worse for Barcelona, the AFE, which is the Players Association, have contacted Ter Stegen and have assured him that Barcelona have no legal grounds to punish him, which is something I talked about yesterday. And people were like, Mo, you don't know what you're talking about. Laporta's a lawyer. He knows more than you. And I said, maybe. I never claimed to know more than Laporta, but I said, hey, you cannot force someone to violate their own rights. And that seems to me like a pretty common sense thing to me. Well, it looks like the AFE, the Players Association, who have a team of lawyers who know about sports law and players' rights, have assured Ter Stegen that no, Barcelona have no legal grounds to punish him. On top of that, La Liga have now not directly sided with Ter Stegen, but they have told Barcelona, look, unless the player agrees, signs off on the authorization to release his records, we're not touching those records, period. Because Barcelona are now talking about, oh, there might be exceptions to the law. They might be this, they might be that. And Barcelona's lawyers are studying ways of how they can still send the report to La Liga without Ter Stegen's approval. And La Liga said, I don't care what you find. If you send me that report without Ter Stegen's authorization, I'm not going to touch it. Now, why would La Liga do this? It's pretty simple, because that would be illegal. And they don't want a lawsuit on their hands. So instead, they're like, you guys figure it out. So what is the club's response to all of this? The latest report is that Barcelona have now officially decided to strip Ter Stegen from his captaincy. And who's going to have to do it? Flick. Flick is going to have to strip the captaincy away at the request of the club, because Laporta and Deco simply do not understand how to run this club. All they're doing is pouring more and more and more gasoline on the fire. And this is not going to help their case. I said this on day fucking one. I said Barcelona should have talked to Ter Stegen before all of this, and all of this could have been avoided. People were like, oh, so now you're saying the club should request permission to sign someone. No. Oh, the club are no. Forget what the club are obligated to do or whether they should or shouldn't do. It's the smart thing to do. When you run a club, you can't just do things that you're obligated to do. You have to think strategically. And Barcelona were on the losing end of this. Ter Stegen had all the cards on the table. He has a 3-year contract. The only loser here would be the club, because Ter Stegen could say, look, forget it. I'm staying and I'm going to earn my really high salary for the next 3 years, whether I'm on the bench or in the stands or whatever. And guess who loses here? The club. So knowing that you're already at a disadvantage, that you're on the losing end of this, why would you go at it head on? It's the dumbest shit that Laporta and Deco could have done. They should have done this in a strategic way. Not because they're obligated to do or that's what they should have done, because it would have been the smart thing to do. And they should have sat down with Mark the same way they sat down with Iñaki Peña and Pau Victor and Pablo Torre and said, look, man, we love you. Thank you for all the years. But let's look for an exit for you, because we're looking to sign someone else. Instead, they told him, you're going to be the number one goalkeeper. They went behind his back. They signed someone else. He had to find out through the press. They launched this whole nasty campaign on Twitter. And now people are like, oh, Ter Stegen, why is he acting like that? Oh, I don't know. Look how the fuck Laporta and Deco acted this whole time. Of course he's going to react that way. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Ter Stegen is also wrong, because he too is making the situation worse. But you have to be able to see that both sides are wrong here. Not just Ter Stegen. It's not that Ter Stegen is this evil man and blah, blah, blah. Laporta and Deco handled this whole situation badly from the beginning, and they're making it worse and worse and worse. Because now they've opened disciplinary actions against him. Now they're stripping his captaincy, and all they're doing is making it worse. And they're the only ones who stand to lose from this, because again, Ter Stegen could simply say, fuck you, I'm staying. And then what? It's just not smart. It's not smart. But anyways, let's go back to the comment section. And then we're going to talk about the 3 key meetings that Deco had today with 3 different agents of 3 different players. Evgeny says, my father gave me a promise as a gift that he will take me to Barca match. However, we decided to wait for the Camp Nou. When do you recommend us to go? Thank you. That's a pretty cool gift, and it's going to be a pretty cool memory. So I really hope it happens to you sooner rather than later. Excuse me. I would probably wait until the second half of the season because, you know, in the first half, we're talking about going back in phases, 27, 45, 62. So I would wait until the second half of the season. Hopefully by then, the full 2 rings will be open. Or if you really, 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 really want to see the stadium fully done, obviously you would have to wait until the 2026-2027 season. But I would go during the second half of the season. That's when I'm going, by the way. I'm going in March. Still don't know exact date. But, yeah. Romain says, Mo, how do you feel about using unofficial sites to buy jerseys? I try to use official sites to support the club. Barca should invest in a site for old jerseys. You know what? That's a really good point. And I really do think the club should do that. I think that would be a great moneymaker where Barcelona should, on their site, not only have obviously the seasons, but they should have like a catalog where you could go back and buy, you know, from previous seasons because people, you know, want to buy from previous seasons. And if they can't, you know, at least the last 2-3 seasons, you know, if I get that maybe you want to maybe keep the value of those jerseys by not having them available. But, you know, at least like last season, it's just the season just ended and you can't find it anywhere on the club's website. So I think that's a really good suggestion. Eddie said, I keep seeing all these tabloids around that Barca can't register. Rashford will be banned from playing in La Liga. No. Barcelona are not gonna be banned from playing in La Liga if they can't register Rashford. I mean, it would be a problem to make a signing that you cannot register, but no, they're not gonna be banned. It's crazy the shit that tabloids come up with sometimes. It's like you have to be very creative with what's like I mentioned this during the previous podcast. I saw this headline. This was like a few weeks ago, and it said Lamine tells Rafinha that he is done playing for Barca and he's going to Real Madrid. And it was like this huge headline, breaking news. And I'm like, what? It's like they really are pretty creative with the stupidity they come up with. Carlos says, the puta Barca is heard all around, and it's not just Barca. I went to the Copa del Rey final, and both teams were chanting the same during the game. Yeah, and this is why I say I'm not really in favor of these fines. Like, as long as it's not like directed specifically at a player and they're being, you know, racial, whatever. It's just general banter, like, oh, fuck Barca, oh, fuck Madrid, oh. And it's like, now we're going to start fining people for saying those kind of, like, it's too much. It's too much. But again, it's Athletic Club Bilbao, so fuck them. But, now La Liga's going to fine me now. But, you know, you get the point. Sean says, good night, Mo. I'm conflicted with Ter Stegen because he came into the preseason injured and didn't notify the club he was injured during international duty. The club knew. He had discomfort, and then that's why he was training by himself. And then when the discomfort didn't go away, then the surgery became an option. So it's not that the club didn't know about it. The club knew. Because remember, when a player has a discomfort, it's not like, oh, that's an injury, unless obviously they break something. It's usually, all right, let's try treating it. Let's try conservative treatment, conservative training. And then after a while, if it's still not going away, then you consider surgery. So no, the club knew about discomfort. That's why he was treating on his own. Frederick says, why are we having trouble with registered Juan Garcia, who has one of the smallest salaries on the team? Anso should have been. So I explained this again. It's how much Barcelona are above their wage limit. Again, it's not updated, so I can't give you actual numbers, but I can give you hypothetical numbers. If you're over your wage limit by 100 million euros and you offload 10 players and you remove 80 million, you're still 20 million above your wage limit. So just because you know, it's kind of like you owe $10,000 and you go and get a bonus at work for 5 and you pay the 5 towards your debt. And it's like, I made 5,000, pay me, and that's it, right? No, you owe 10. You paid 5, you still owe 5. So just, yeah, we're taking good steps forward, but that doesn't mean all of a sudden your problems are gone. But anyways. Noé says, not defending Mats about how difficult he's been, but the flip side, the club inherently allowed the situation upon themselves. Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Again, I think they both are wrong here. But people are only taking it against Ter Stegen, and they're missing the big picture, which is Laporta and Deco allowed this to happen. They started this, and they're making it worse. Opening disciplinary action, removing his captaincy, reviewing whether they can still submit the report without his authorization. All you're doing is antagonizing the guy more and more. And the more you antagonize him, the more he's going to dig his heels and the more he's going to say, fuck you. Is that what you want? No. Why? Because you are on the losing end. And of course, the Porta Deco don't give a shit. It's not their money. It's not their, they're just there. If this ends up in a court system, if Barcelona still send the authorization without Ter Stegen's consent and Ter Stegen sues, he's not going to sue Laporta and Deco personally. He's going to sue the club. And if he wins, guess what? It's not Deco and Laporta's money that's going to pay Ter Stegen. It's the club's money. So they don't give a shit. They're like, they're just riding an ego high. Like, oh, fuck this guy. It's like, no, this is not a personal feud. This is a feud between the club and a player. And you're making it personal. And you cannot make it personal because you're affecting the club that you're representing. If this was in your own private business, sure, do whatever the fuck you want. Go to war. File lawsuits. Egg each other's houses. Do whatever the fuck you want. But as a president of the club, you can't be doing this. You can't let your ego get the better side of you. Like, it's like, what are we doing? It's like, but anyways. Goji says, the only thing it matters, we got the better goalkeeper. I don't give a single F about Ter Stegen or Laporta Deco at this point. I just want the best player to each position. I do too, but unfortunately, their actions do affect the club. Because guess what? Joan Garcia has nothing to do with this. And he's probably sitting there like watching them going back and forth. And he's thinking like, okay, well, I still want to play. Is anyone going to register me? And, that sucks for him. And Nico Williams is probably sitting at Bilbao like, maybe it was a good decision I didn't go there. Look at this fucking shit show. And it's like all this shit has repercussions. But people don't want to think about all these repercussions because it's too much work. So it's just, fuck Mark this thing and that's it. Because thinking is difficult and it takes a lot of energy. But anyways, let's get back to the news. Let's do the last bit of news because today Deco had 3 key meetings with 3 representatives of 3 different players. I told you in yesterday's video that Deco was going to meet with representatives of 2 players, Hector Fort and Iñaki Peña. Lo and behold, those meetings did happen. But then there was a 3rd meeting that we did not expect, and that one was with Marcus Rashford's agent. Why? Because Marcus Rashford's agent is now getting worried. He's watching this whole shit show unfold. He's like, wait a minute, is this club even going to be able to register my guy? So Deco today, he had to be with Marcus Rashford's agent to assure him, don't worry, bro, we're going to be able to register. Now, again, I hope that it's true because, again, this will be the 3rd season we would start with some of our players not registered. But Deco assuring Marcus Rashford's agent that he will be registered and that he will be registered on time. Now, in regards to the 2nd meeting, which was with Iñaki Peña, it looks like it's going to have to be a contract rescission. As you know, Flick doesn't count on Iñaki. Iñaki has decided to leave. And so far, no actual offers have materialized for Iñaki Peña. So it looks like it's going to have to be a contract rescission where the club agrees to terminate, the club and the player agree to terminate the contract and the player leaves as a free agent. But of course, what's the problem? The problem is that Barcelona don't want to do this until they have a goalkeeper registered. Because right now, out of the 4 goalkeepers that we have, Ter Stegen, Chesney, Joan Garcia, and Iñaki is the only one who's registered and can play. Talk about shit planning. But no, Mo, you're just a hater. You just hate Laporta. Well, you tell me. We have 4 goalkeepers, and the only one who can start La Liga is the guy who's leaving, who we told him to leave and where he said, okay, fine, I'll leave. So the club are going to have to rescind the contract of Iñaki, but for now they can't until they figure out how to register Joan Garcia. Now, as far as Hector Fort, it looks like is going to have to be alone. At the beginning, the club were open to selling Hector Fort since he has become the 3rd right back. Flick doesn't count much on him. It's Koundé and Eric Garcia ahead of him. The player was refusing to leave. So then Barcelona thought that maybe a loan would be the better option because they understand that Hector Ford is at a certain age where he needs to be playing. And since he's not going to be playing at Barcelona because Flick doesn't count on him and he's refusing to be sold, then maybe loan would be a compromise where he would still be getting minutes, would be somewhere else, but it wouldn't be sold. So maybe he would be open to that. And that's what the club pretty much expressed to Hector Ford during the meeting. There are several clubs interested in his loan. Of course, the agent will take it back to the player. We'll see what Hector Ford decides because, of course, one big issue with all of this is that there is the upcoming World Cup, the Under-20 World Cup that starts in September. That's a big consideration for the player and whether he leaves or not, because if he stays in Spain, Barcelona would be required to release him. But if he leaves to another league, whichever club signs him, they would have to approve his release. And that, of course, could be a problem because a club that pays money for him or signs him might be like, no, we just signed you. You're not leaving. So that's going to be an obstacle there in this whole operation. We'll see what the player decides. But just know that Deco met with Rashford to assure him he's going to be registered. Iñaki Peña to let him know, hey, it's going to be a contract rescission, but we're going to have to wait to register Juan Garcia. And Ford, like, hey, bro, we want to loan you out. Go tell your player and let us know. All right, that is all the news for the podcast. I'm pretty sure I get in a fever. Starting to feel really warm. But let's see what the comment section says. Noam says, funny that Barca fans want to blame the board for trying to compete with the best clubs in the world by signing players and still blame them for not being able to register. Yeah, you should definitely blame the board for signing players and not being able to register. Yes, 100%. That is their responsibility, and that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, what's the point of signing a player if you can't register? Oh, we got to compete. Okay. How do you compete if your player you sign is not playing? So, yes, you can't blame them. Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is like saying, oh, I can't believe you're blaming someone for buying a house and not being able to afford to pay his mortgage. Yes, you could definitely blame him for doing that because you're not supposed to do that. So I don't understand the irony in this or the sarcasm in this. My man Sanjog says, I understand the finances, but I'm really frustrated when it comes to registrations. Last season was our best season in a while, and we still have problems. What would you do to avoid this next season? I think the Camp Nou is going to have to be key because that was a big thing last season, right? We were supposed to go to Camp Nou last season. We did it, so we lost a lot of money. So going back to the Camp Nou now is going to make a big difference. Now, they're talking about a partial return. So we're still going to lose some money, but at least not as much money as not playing an entire season at the Camp Nou. So that's one thing. Another thing is obviously avoiding any more dumb signings. Vitor Roque, 65 million for a player that was not even worth 10. Dani Olmo, great player, but did we need him? We had so many midfielders on our first team and even more in Barca Athletic and even more in the academy. So avoiding unnecessary expenditures, that could also help. And, continue to get rid of the big salaries, right? Thankfully, Lenglet is gone now. That was a huge salary. Ansu Fati, Barcelona still covering half of the salary, but still, that's a big help. Ter Stegen, if he does end up leaving, it's not going to be in the summer, obviously, because he's injured. No club is going to pay for him when he's injured, but maybe in the winter, if he does end up leaving in the winter, that will be a big help as well. And then next summer, Lewandowski, when he leaves, that's going to be a big salary. As far as Frankie, if he finally renews and restructures his salary, that will be a huge help. So there's still ways to improve. We've improved a lot, but there's still ways to improve. But obviously, improvement takes time. Let me see. All right. Thank you for your donation, by the way. Thank all of you for your donations. Let's do a few more comments, and then we will end this. Brima says, Mo, I know Laporta's not perfect, but if not him, who knows right now, Barca will have gone bankrupt or playing Division 2. I don't think that's necessarily true. Again, not to take away from what John Laporta has done, but to say that he was the only person who was able to manage the club out of the financial hole. I mean, based on what? How do we know if another candidate hadn't won would have also done a good job or a better job or a similar job? This whole Laporta's the Messiah and only him could have done this. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true. And again, not to take away from what he did, but anyways. Hamad Farah says, how did Ter Stegen know his repeated surgery recovery is 2 months? Did the doctor tell him, or he just come up with his time frame? I imagine since it was the same doctor performing the same exact surgery on the same exact spot and the same exact surgery, I imagine the doctor was like, yeah, this is going to be the same recovery. But they haven't specified. They just said it was the same injury, same spot, same doctor, same surgery. Everything was 2.5 months back then, so it should be 2.5 months now. I don't know if he just came up with that conclusion on his own, or if his own doctor told him, because again, same doctor. I don't know. But that's the argument why Ter Stegen was like, I'm not signing this. This says I'm going to be out for 4, but I know I'm going to be out for 2.5. So why would I agree for a month and a half extra of not being able to work? Trini Barca fan says, hey, Mo, I can't agree with the club is trying to blame MTS that's going into tinfoil hat territory. Who would buy a player and base registration on another person's injury? That's the thing, though. I'm not saying that they are basing it. I'm saying that they didn't have a plan to register him. And once the injury happened, they're like, oh, jackpot. Now we can register the players. Oh, shit. This guy doesn't want to. Fuck. All right, let's blame him. It's not us. Because remember, this already happened. That's the crazy thing. This has already happened. And people are like baffled. Like, oh, Mo, where are you coming up with this? Because it's literally history repeating itself. Last summer, we signed Dani Olmo and Pau Victor, knowing damn well La Liga had told us, you're not going to be able to register. We still signed them. What happens? No plan to register them. Season starts, still no plan. Oh, Christensen gets injured. Jackpot. We can now register these 2 players that we signed, knowing damn well we can't register them. And we had no plan to register them. And now our asses get saved thanks to Christensen. And now it's the same thing. They sign these guys. Ter Stegen gets injured. The difference is Ter Stegen is like, no, fuck you. And now they're like, Ter Stegen is the bad guy. Yeah, bro, but maybe you should have signed players knowing or having a plan on how to register. Because that's the thing with Laporta. He improvises. He never has a plan in place. He improvises. And eventually, a lot of times, he still like gets things done. But that cannot be how you run a club. It cannot be how you run a multi-billion-dollar corporation or company. It's not technically a corporation because it's owned by its members, but you get the point. You cannot improvise. And I've dealt with companies from small all the way to large, and no company runs like this. Companies have plans. They plan their whole year out of everything. They have not just a year plan. They have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. They have everything planned down to the smallest detail. And they have backup plans in case something goes wrong. And then they have a backup for the backup in case the backup goes wrong. And that's how you operate companies. But Laporta just improvises. It's like, we'll do this now. We'll figure it out later. And you can't run a club like that. It's not the right way to do things. Shin says, what a carousel. I've gone from fuck Mats to, okay, there's blame on both sides. Less than 24 hours later, I'm 100% fuck Laporta and Deco. Even a soap opera doesn't have this many turns. There's always 2 sides to the coin, right? And if you cannot see both sides or you cannot understand both sides, then most likely, and this is statistically speaking true, by the way, if you cannot argue both sides and you don't know both sides, then most likely the conclusion you've come up with is the wrong one. This has been studied extensively, by the way. That's why it's always important to not only know both sides and understand them, but to be able to argue both sides. Arlan says, I was involved in an accident. I was hit by a truck. That's why I was not on your lap. Oh, my God. I hope you're feeling well, my friend. Are you okay? Like, were you injured? I really, really hope that you're fine. Eugene says, Mo, are you not awake that the club has money problems? And you do, then why you always act like Laporta's supposed to be playing miracle? I'm very aware that the club doesn't have money. And improvising is not the way to run a club without money. Not having money means that you need to plan even more than if you do have money. If you are broke, you come up with a plan on how to not be broke. And as a broke person, you need a plan more than someone who is not broke, because you need the structure even more, because you even need more help. So I'm aware that the club doesn't have money. And the fact that the club doesn't have money It's even further proof that the club needs a plan, but there's no plan. And that's fucking crazy to me. So yes, I'm very aware of that. And that makes only things worse for Laporta, not better. Because if you know that you don't have money, and if you know it's going to be difficult to do things, that's why you come up with a plan and a backup plan. Because you're going to need it more than if the club had money. Shouldn't have to explain these things. Obiado says, what if the UCL can Juan Garcia play there since they are no La Liga rule? I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure to register someone in the Champions League, they still have to be registered in La Liga. I'm pretty sure about that. Again, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna have to double check, but I think you have to be registered in La Liga, or not just in La Liga, obviously in your whatever league you play in order to be able to be registered in the Champions League. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm gonna have to double check, but I'm pretty sure. Jorge says, listening to you with my newly born daughter. Oh, let's go! Congratulations, my friend. That's pretty amazing. Congratulations. We have a new culé amongst us. That's pretty cool, my friend. Pretty cool. I hope you can buy her a little Barcelona onesie. That's awesome, man. Congrats. And Danny says, having an injury in the same doesn't mean it's gonna take the same amount of healing time. Recurrent injuries are even more severe the second time because scar tissues can be formed. True, that is a possibility. I can't say definitively. I'm just telling you what the player said. Yeah, recurrent injuries, but at the same time, sometimes it is the same recovery. That's how we come up with recovery times, right? Because if you notice, every announcement about any injury, about any player, it almost never has a timeline. It's always like, oh, this guy suffered a torn whatever muscle in thigh or whatever, and development recovery will depend on the development. They always say that, right? But then you always see the reports, oh, they're gonna be out 4 weeks, and they end up being 4 weeks. Why? Because we already know that injury takes 4 weeks to heal, because we've seen that injury before, and that's usually what the recovery time is. So it's not completely off to say it's going to be the same time, because but you also have a point. You are right. It can also be longer because it's a second injury. So again, it could be either or, and there's no way for us to know, me and you to know, unless we actually see the medical records, which obviously we can. Jorge says, already got the onesies, just waiting for some Barca ball. That's amazing, my friend. That is absolutely amazing. Congratulations again. And on that amazing positive note that we have a new culé in our culé family, let's end the podcast. I'm pretty sure I have a fever. I'm feeling super warm. I'm sick. My throat is killing me. So I'm going to go to bed. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be ready to make more videos. I made a video yesterday with my impressions of the preseason, and I still haven't posted it. So I guess I'll do it now real quick. I just got to edit it and post it. So stay tuned to the channel. Anyways, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.